Morning everyone, hope you're well. I've got some new gear to try out. I don't really get excited by gear, to be honest with you. I know I should be more enthusiastic about this sort of thing, but funnily enough, the most exciting thing that I've got, well for me anyway, is this thing that I'm filming you on. Hopefully it should make my vlogging a little easier, I would say. This morning is really just about coming out and testing this equipment. I'll do a full sort of in-depth video, if you like, of some of the changes that I've made shortly, but for now, this morning, I just wanted to test it out. It had to be something pretty quick and easy because I've got a few bits and bobs to do in the gallery before I reopen on Thursday. Thank God. Back to saying back to normality, something like normality anyway. But yeah, so it had to be quick and easy. I've come down to Derwentwater, and my initial plan was to go and shoot at the Centenary Stones, but when I got there, the water level was a bit lower than I was expecting actually, so I've come a little bit further around the bay, and I've just been sort of scouting about this shoreline. There's not an awful lot doing, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm not too concerned with that because, as I say, I'm just more out this morning to do a bit of a test of the equipment. The shot that I'm going for, I'll just walk you out here to where I'm at. Let me just spin you around a sec. Oh, hang about. There we go. Yeah, so I'm really not breaking any new ground here, I'm afraid, folks. It is a rock, or two rocks in a foreground. But yeah, it's actually quite nice this morning. The forecast was meant to be for blue skies, but as you can see up there, we've got some nice cloud about. So I'm just waiting for this light to break a little bit. I have been getting very rudely interrupted by ducks and swimmers, of all things. I kid, of course. Can't be many better places to come for a morning dip than here, Jesus. The shot I've got set up, I did have a good look up, a good scout around this shoreline for something half interesting, but there really wasn't a lot doing, to be honest, so I'm kind of stuck with this a little bit. But I did actually take a little bit of time picking these two rocks, because they do mirror the sort of shape of the fells in the distance that's reflected in the water, so there's a nice little bit of relationship there, I think. But yeah, let's call a spade a spade. It's a rock in a foreground and a reflection, but it's very nice and I shouldn't knock it. But it is going to be an interesting sort of test of this new lens. This is the 24-200 Z lens, and it was one of the key sort of considerations I had when changing this equipment, because this lens is a very interesting one, and if it performs the way that the reviews have been suggesting on YouTube, I think this could be quite a savvy choice, I think. Well, I'm hoping anyway. But yeah, I'll put that one up on the screen that I got earlier. I took one first thing when I arrived to make sure I got one in the bag, because we had some lovely conditions first thing. There's some nice sort of pastel colours in the sky, and I really needed to get the shot in the bag before doing any filming. But I'm going to wait it out here to see if this light pops out, and yeah, not a bad morning to be out, I think. This isn't really happening, I don't think. Looking at the forecast apps that I've got on my phone, I think this grey sky's set for the day, I think now. So tell you what, let's get back to the house, get a cup of coffee on, and let's talk through that equipment, I think. Hopefully I'm in focus. Now this is a little bit of a black mark against this camera because it doesn't have the flip screen. But anyway, so I'm back at the ranch. I've had a coffee. I'm a little bit more warm and yeah, feeling a bit more alive. It's nice to see a bit of winter weather creeping in now though, because autumn's been an absolute washout. So yeah, it's nice to see. So anyway, onto the equipment. So I mentioned I've moved to the Nikon Z7, and this change has been forced on me a little bit, to be honest, because my D810 sadly started to fog up. Now, I could send it away to get repaired, which would have cost a few £100 to repair an already aging camera. I mean, that camera came out in 2014, I think. And the second option was to change to a mirrorless system, lighter, more modern, and yeah, suits my needs better for producing these videos anyway. So that's what I've done. So the Z7. Now, I must mention the two cameras that were in the running for this because I did consider other cameras. I'm not wedded to Nikon in any way. I don't, you know, for me, cameras are very much a sort of tool to do a job. I just need them to do what I ask them. I don't care what badge is on them, to be perfectly honest. I just happen to have used Nikon because Nikon was the first camera I bought, and I've just been in that system ever since. Probably like 99% of you out there. But the first camera was the Fuji X-T4. Now, I do have experience using Fuji cameras. I briefly had an X-T3 last year and absolutely loved it. Great camera, tactile, very immersive in terms of how you take pictures, you know, with all the manual knobs and dials and stuff. Absolutely loved it. But, and it is a big but, the drop in image quality from the D810 to the Fuji for me was significant. Now, it's not a fair comparison, it's not an apples to apples comparison because one's a 36 megapixel full frame and the other one's a 26 megapixel crop. But the main issue for me with those Fuji files was the worming. Now, there's a lot of information out there about this. I'm sure if you just go on YouTube and type in Fuji worms, there'll be a whole load of videos about it. It is a thing, and once you see it, you can't unsee it, unfortunately. Now, I'm very aware that it's a Lightroom problem more than a Fuji problem. Basically, Lightroom doesn't read the files properly off that sensor. So Lightroom and Adobe, you really need to get your finger out on that because, you know, the Fuji sensor's been around for a while now and they should really resolve that problem. You can get Irradiant as a plugin which cleans up the file a bit, but not all the way. Also Capture One. Now Capture One completely eradicates the problem. You can't see worms on those files. The problem with Capture One is that it's added expense on top. Now, if you come from using Lightroom and Photoshop, it's another step in the workflow that, for the cost that it was going to be, I didn't want to incur. So, very sadly, the Fuji, as capable as a camera as it is, I mean, certainly for hybrid shooting and, you know, the video specs on that camera are absolutely excellent. I had to rule it out. The second camera was the Sony A7R III. Now, I'm aware, obviously, that there's newer versions of these cameras out. There's the Sony A7R IV and also the Nikon Z7 Mark II, which has just come out. The Sony A7R IV I ruled out really because at 60 megapixels, it's kind of overkill. Now, that's not knocking that camera. I'm sure it's an excellent camera, but in terms of weighing up cost, I didn't really feel it was worth it. So I was looking at the A7R III. Now, that in comparison with the Z7, they're almost identical in terms of the results that they produce. Sony has a much better auto-focusing system, but if you're shooting landscapes, really that isn't so much of an issue. If you're shooting weddings and whatnot, then probably a much bigger consideration. But for me, when I was looking at Sony, really it came down to cost. So the Sony system, if I'd got the lenses that I needed, it would have cost another £800 or £900 to make that switch. So in the end, when I had two cameras lined up against each other that were going to produce pretty much the same results, I went with the Nikon because it was cheaper, basically. But I'm pleased with this choice, and the results I'm getting off it so far are absolutely great. The image that I'm showing you on the screen there, this was the first shot I actually took on this Z7, and yeah, really impressed with the results. I should have actually probably vlogged a little bit of this because the conditions were excellent, but really I was just out to sort of do a bit of a test of the lens, really. Which leads me on to the next part of this discussion, which is probably the more important bit, which is which lenses did I get. So the wide angle lens that I'm shooting this video on now is the 14 to 30 f4. This is a bit of a known quantity as a lens. It's been out for a while now, and from what I've seen so far, it's absolutely excellent. And for a wide angle zoom, it's very light, which is ideal for me. But optically, in terms of the image quality it produces, it is a step up from what I was using on the old F mount. I had the 16 to 35 and the 18 to 35 at different points in time, and this one outperforms them quite easily. So yeah, great lens. And also the extra 4mm that I've got at the wide end might prove useful. I mean, I don't really shoot that many images that are really ultra wide, but having it there as an option is nice. The second lens, which is probably the more interesting of the two, is this one. Where's it at? This is the 24 to 200 f4 to 6.3. Now, on the face of it, this lens really shouldn't be that good, but all the reviews I've seen of it suggest that it's actually very good. The first image that you saw in this video down at Derwent, that was shot off this lens at about 49mm, and on the screen it looks absolutely excellent. Now, I must give a mention to Julian Baird, who's a photographer based down in the southwest, I think. He did a really good review on this lens, and it proved really useful for me to make this decision on this one. So yeah, big thanks for that. And what it also means is that I can move to a system where I'm only carrying two lenses. So I've got the 14 to 30 and the 24 to 200. One of the determining factors in getting this lens was also that the Z system doesn't actually currently have, and I believe it's not even on the roadmap for future release, is a 70 to 200 f4. Now, that would have been the obvious lens that I would have probably gone to when I changed system, but it wasn't an option. There is a 70 to 200 2.8, which I'm sure is absolutely excellent, but for landscapes and obviously the weight of an f2.8 lens as well, again, it's probably overkill, and the price was really quite prohibitive on that. I think it's about £2,500, that lens. I might be wrong, but it certainly, in terms of the cost, really wasn't in the discussion for me. So this 24 to 200 should be a really wise choice. Time will tell though. So I joked in the first part of this video that I was more excited about the thing I was filming you on than any of the other stuff, and I wasn't joking there. What I was filming you on is this. This is the Pocket 2 from DJI. It's the follow-up to the Osmo Pocket 1. I think they've took the Osmo part of the name out. But yeah, really impressed with this. It's a very capable little camera, and for the style of videos that I want to produce, I think this is going to be a really good fit for me. What I've found over the last 6 months in doing these vlogs is that I bought an A6400 to do sort of higher quality vlogging footage, but what I've found is it's not that practical to use, and really to do it properly I would have needed to buy an ultra wide lens, and also the fact that that camera isn't stabilized, which really doesn't work for vlogging that well. So what I'd found is I was actually using this, which is the Osmo Action, and it's been an absolutely excellent little camera. It's never let me down. Really, what I should have done is bought the first version of this, which is more suited to vlogging because it's a motorized gimbal head and it's stabilized and it's got face tracking. Whereas this one, because it's fixed focus, everything obviously to infinity is meant to be in acceptably sharp focus. But if you get too close to the lens, your face ends up soft. basically. And a lot of videos that I've been producing, it's been really bugging me that in post, you know, 2/3 of the frame is out of focus. So I've rectified that with getting this. This has got a slightly bigger sensor than the previous model, so it's better in low light. And the footage off it is really excellent. I mean, even for doing bits of sort of B-roll and slow motion, it's more than acceptable, I would say. I mean, this isn't to say that people who put loads of time and effort into the production side of these videos are wrong. It's just personally a personal preference for me. But really, these things aren't Hollywood production. I really want the landscape to do the talking. And if I can use equipment that's going to help me get out of the way as much as possible and still allow me to concentrate more on the photography, then that's really what I'm aiming for here. So yeah, going forward, it'll be the Z7 with the 2 lenses, this little camera for doing the vlogging, and obviously the drone for doing little bits of B-roll. One other thing I should mention about this camera actually, which was really important in making the decision to get it, is it comes with one of these. If you buy the Creator Combo pack, you get this wireless mic and a few other little bits and bobs, but it works really well. There's a little handle that plugs in the bottom of the camera, and this connects up wirelessly, obviously, and it means I'm going to get great audio as well. So the Rode Wireless Go that I bought might end up being a bit redundant. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But it'll make a good backup anyway, and I can always use it on the Z7 as well if I need extra audio on something else. But yeah, hopefully in the next couple of days we're going to get a bit of snow, so the next video I might be up a mountain with some snow. Fingers crossed. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and you found it interesting. I know I've been at pains to sort of say I'm not really into the gear and all that sort of stuff, but I do appreciate for you know, a lot of people it is interesting. And I must admit, parts of making this decision, looking at some of the review videos on YouTube now, it does make making a decision like this much easier, and it certainly paid off with making the choice on the 24-200 lens. So yeah, if you've got any questions or anything, just leave me a comment. I always try and, well, I do reply to all the comments. And yeah, give this video a like and a subscribe. That's the biggest help you can give to me, I suppose. But until next time, I'll see you later.